In the beautiful village of Zalumbwe, where golden fields danced in the wind and rivers sang softly, lived a kind and loving girl named Nandi. She was the daughter of Chief Okande, a wise and respected leader who cared deeply for his people. Nandi's mother had died when she was very young, leaving a hole in their hearts. Even though he was sad, Okande made sure Nandi felt loved every day. He told her stories about her mother and taught her about the village's traditions. Nandi grew up to be a kind, gentle girl with a bright smile. Everyone in the village loved her. She helped farmers in the fields, played with the children by the river, and sat proudly beside her father during village meeting. She was a light in everyone's life, especially her father's. Their love for each other was strong and unbreakable. Life in Zalumbwe was peaceful and full of happiness, and Nandi believed it would always stay that way. Life in Zalumbwe began to change when Chief Okande decided to remarry. He believed that Nandi needed a mother's love and that their home needed a woman's warmth again. His new wife, Kasiya, appeared kind and gentle at first. She smiled sweetly at the villagers, spoke softly to Nandi, and promised to care for her like her own child. Okande, hopeful for a new beginning, trusted Kasiya's words and welcomed her into their home with an open heart. But behind Kasiya's kind smile was a heart full of jealousy. She couldn't help but notice how beautiful and graceful Nandi was, even at such a young age. Nandi's eyes sparkled with kindness, and the villagers adored her. What made Kasiya's envy grow even stronger was the deep bond Nandi shared with her father. Chief Okande loved his daughter dearly, and no matter how hard Kasiya tried to win his affection, it was clear that Nandi held the most special place in his heart. Kasiya didn't come alone. She brought her own daughter, Zuba, to live with them. Zuba was nothing like Nandi. She was spoiled and selfish, used to getting whatever she wanted. Kasiya had raised her to believe she deserved more than others, and when she saw Nandi, sweet, loved and admired by everyone, she disliked her instantly. To Zuba, Nandi was everything she was not: kind, humble, and beloved by the people of Zalumbwe. At first, Nandi tried to be friendly. She welcomed Zuba with an open heart, hoping they could be like sisters. She showed Zuba her favorite places by the river, and even shared the beautiful beads her mother once gave her. But Zuba didn't care for Nandi's kindness. She mocked her, called her boring, and laughed behind her back. Nandi tried to ignore the cruelty, believing that in time, things would get better. Kasiya, watching from the shadows, had no intention of letting that happen. Every time Chief Okande wasn't around, her sweet smile vanished. She began to treat Nandi coldly, giving her the hardest chores and pretending she wasn't feeling well whenever Nandi tried to spend time with her father. She whispered to Zuba, encouraging her to make Nandi's life harder. Kasiya wasn't satisfied with Nandi simply feeling sad. She wanted her gone, erased from Okande's heart entirely. As the days passed, the warmth in Nandi's home started to fade. Chief Okande didn't notice the change. He was busy leading the village and trusted Kasiya to care for Nandi. Kasiya was clever, always pretending to be a loving mother when Okande was near. She would stroke Nandi's hair and speak kindly, but the moment he turned away, her eyes hardened and her voice grew sharp. Nandi, though hurt, stayed strong. She loved her father and didn't want to worry him. She believed that one day Kasiya and Zuba would see her kindness and things would get better. But Kasiya's heart was too full of jealousy and her plans were only just beginning. Kasiya's jealousy burned like a fire that wouldn't die. Every time she saw Nandi smile or watched Chief Okande look at his daughter with pride, the anger inside her grew. No matter how many chores she gave Nandi or how much she favored her own daughter Zuba, Nandi's spirit didn't break. She still greeted everyone with warmth and kindness. And worse, the villagers still adored her. Kasiya realized that if she truly wanted Nandi out of the way, she couldn't just make her miserable. She needed to turn Okande against his own daughter. Kasiya began her plan carefully, planting tiny seeds of doubt in Okande's mind. It started with soft, worried words. "I'm worried about Nandi," she said one evening, her voice low and gentle. "She doesn't seem to listen to me. I try to guide her, but she pulls away. I'm afraid she's growing disrespectful. Okande frowned but brushed it off, confident that his daughter was kind and good. He believed Nandi was simply adjusting to having a new mother and sister, but Cassia didn't stop. Each day, she added more poison to his thoughts. She watched Nandi closely, waiting for any little mistake she could twist into something awful. When Nandi stayed out late, helping an old woman carry water, Cassia shook her head sadly and murmured, "She disappears without telling anyone where she goes. It's not safe. What if she's meeting someone in secret?" When Nandi accidentally knocked over a clay pot while helping Zuba, Cassia sighed and said, "She gets angry so easily. I tried to calm her down, but she just stormed off. I'm worried, my love. She's not the sweet girl you remember." Slowly, bit by bit, Okande started to listen. He didn't want to believe Cassia, but her words were gentle, full of concern, and she never openly blamed Nandi. Instead, she made it seem like she was trying to protect the family. "I love her like my own," she would say, her eyes filled with false sadness. "But she pushes me away." The lies began to take root. Okande started to watch Nandi differently. He noticed when she came home late, though he never would have questioned it before, and wondered where she had been. He saw when she looked tired and assumed Cassia was right, that she was staying up late to avoid her new family. Each time something small went wrong in the village or at home, Cassia was there, quietly suggesting that Nandi might be involved. Cassia grew bolder with her lies. One day she appeared before Okande with tears in her eyes. "I've tried so hard," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I treat Nandi like my own daughter, but she hates me. She says cruel things when you're not around. Even Zuba is afraid of her temper." Okande's heart ached. He didn't want to believe it, but Cassia looked so hurt, so sincere. He began to wonder if Nandi had changed, if maybe the loss of her mother and the arrival of a new family had made her angry and bitter. The warmth in his heart began to cool. Nandi noticed it, even if she didn't understand why. Her father no longer greeted her with his usual smile. His hugs became shorter, his voice less gentle. He started asking where she had been, what she was doing, even though he had never questioned her before. Nandi tried to explain, but no matter what she said, Cassia was always there to twist her words. When Nandi woke up early to fetch water for the family, Cassia told Okande, "She sneaks out before dawn. Where does she go? I'm afraid she's hiding something." When Nandi stayed up late finishing her chores, Cassia whispered, "She's up all night. I'm worried she's plotting something. Maybe she wants to leave us. Maybe she's planning something worse." The distance between Okande and Nandi grew. He no longer looked at her with pride and love. His eyes, once filled with warmth, now held doubt and sadness. Nandi felt it deep in her heart. She didn't. Cassia's hatred for Nandi burned stronger with each passing day. She had turned Chief Okande's heart cold, but that wasn't enough. As long as Nandi still lived in the village, there was a chance the truth could come to light. Cassia wanted her gone, completely, forever. She knew she had to deliver one final crushing blow. One night, Cassia sat by Okande's side, her face filled with false worry. "My love," she began, her voice trembling, "I fear for your safety. Nandi, she's changed. She no longer looks at you with love. She watches you like someone waiting for something terrible to happen. I'm afraid she wants your throne and your life." Okande looked at her, shocked. "Nandi would never hurt me," he said, but his voice was unsure now. Cassia saw the doubt flicker in his eyes and pressed on. "I didn't want to believe it either," she whispered, her eyes filling with fake tears. "But I found something." She reached into her shawl and pulled out a small pouch filled with dark powder. "I found this hidden among Nandi's things. Baba Mzuri told me it's poison, a slow one that weakens the mind and body, the same kind that's been making you sick." Okande stared at the pouch in disbelief. He had been feeling weaker lately, his strength fading more each day. He never imagined Nandi could be responsible, but Cassia's lies had been chipping away at his trust for so long that the truth felt blurry. His heart ached with confusion. Cassia didn't stop there. She cried harder, pretending to protect Nandi, even as she destroyed her. Maybe it's not her fault. Maybe the loss of her mother and the pain in her heart made her this way. But the village, they won't understand. If they find out, they'll demand justice. What if they hurt her? What if they hurt you? Okande, torn between love and fear, called for the village elders. He trusted them to guide him. When they gathered, Kasaya told her twisted version of the truth. She spoke of Nandi's strange behavior, her sneaking around, and the poison she claimed to find. She painted Nandi as a clever, deceitful girl who pretended to be kind while planning to take her father's place as chief. The elders listened carefully. They respected Chief Okande and his wife, believing that a mother wouldn't lie about her own stepdaughter. When Kassia showed them the pouch of poison, the room fell silent. The evidence seemed undeniable. The elders, though saddened, agreed that Nandi could no longer stay in the village. Nandi was brought before them, her heart racing with fear and confusion. She looked at her father, searching for the love she once knew, but all she saw was pain and doubt. "Father, I didn't do this," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "I would never hurt you. Please believe me." But Okande couldn't meet her eyes. His heart was heavy, broken by Kassia's lies. "I don't know what to believe in," he said softly. "The elders have spoken. You must leave Zalumbwe." The words hit Nandi like a dagger. Her home, her people, her father, all ripped away from her in an instant. The villagers watched in shock and sadness as Nandi was led out of the village. Some whispered that it couldn't be true, that Nandi was too kind to do such a thing. But no one dared speak against Chief Okande and Kassia. Nandi was banished to the Forest of Shadows, a place feared by all. It was said to be filled with wild beasts, twisted trees, and dark spirits that roamed in the mist. No one who entered ever returned. As Nandi walked towards the edge of the forest, she glanced back one last time, hoping her father would stop her, call her back, and realize the truth, but he didn't. He turned away, his shoulders heavy with sorrow. Kassia watched from a distance, a smug smile hidden beneath her fake tears. She had won. Nandi was gone, and the path to controlling Okande and the village was finally clear. Nandi took a deep breath, stepping into the shadows. Her heart was shattered, but somewhere deep inside her, a spark of hope still flickered. She wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. Nandi wandered deeper into the forest of shadows, her heart shattered and her body weak. The trees loomed over her like twisted giants, their branches reaching out as if to grab her. The air was thick and damp, filled with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant, eerie howl. Fear clung to her chest, but the pain of her father's betrayal hurt far worse. She couldn't stop thinking about his eyes, once filled with warmth, now cold and distant. No matter how hard she tried, the memory of him turning away from her wouldn't leave her mind. Days blurred into nights. Nandi was hungry, her stomach aching with emptiness. She drank from muddy streams, the water bitter, but enough to keep her going. She found berries and roots, nibbling on whatever didn't taste poisonous. Her clothes, once bright and beautiful, were now ripped and dirty. Her feet were blistered from walking endlessly over rough ground. She was exhausted, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Every night, she huddled under thick bushes, trembling as the forest came alive around her. She heard growls in the darkness, footsteps that didn't belong to human feet, and whispers that seemed to float on the wind. The shadows moved strangely, and Nandi couldn't tell if it was her mind playing tricks, or if the spirits really were watching her. She prayed softly to her mother, asking for strength. One afternoon, when the sun barely peeked through the trees, Nandi heard a sound that made her heart freeze. A low, guttural growl echoed behind her. Slowly she turned, her body shaking. A massive leopard emerged from the undergrowth, its golden eyes locked onto her, unblinking, its muscles tensed, its tail flicking as it crept closer. Nandi's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. She knew running was useless. The beast was faster, stronger. She was too weak to fight. Tears welled in her eyes. After everything she had endured, was this how it would end? Alone and forgotten, the leopard lunged. Before Nandi could even scream, an arrow shot through the air, landing in the dirt between her and the beast. The leopard snarled, stopping in its tracks. Another figure burst from the shadows, moving swiftly and fearlessly. He held a spear, his stance steady and powerful. The leopard growled again, but seemed to hesitate. After a tense moment, it turned, and disappeared into the trees. Nandi stared at her savior in shock. He was tall and strong, his skin dark and smooth. His eyes were sharp, but they held a strange gentleness. His clothes were made from animal hides, and his hair was wild and untamed. He looked like a man who belonged to the forest itself. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low and calm. "This forest is death for most who enter." Nandi blinked, still trying to catch her breath. "I had no choice," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I was banished. My stepmother lied about me. My father believed her." The man studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, to her surprise, he nodded. "I believe you," he said. "Only someone with a pure heart could survive this long in the forest of shadows." "My name is Nandi," she said softly. The man's eyes softened. "I'm Kato," he replied. "I've been in this forest for many years. I was once a man like any other, but I'm not anymore. I'm a spirit, trapped in this form by a curse. I can't leave this place, not until I help a soul as pure and kind as yours find justice." Nandi's eyes widened. "You're cursed. Why?" Kato looked away, his voice quieter now. "I was a prince from a distant kingdom. I was proud and selfish. One day an old woman came to my palace begging for food. I turned her away. I didn't know she was a powerful spirit in disguise. She cursed me to live in this forest, feeling the pain of every soul who suffers from betrayal. The only way." Back in the village of Zalumbwe, Cassia and her daughter Zuba lived comfortably, enjoying the luxuries that came with their new position. With Nandi gone, Cassia felt unstoppable. She paraded through the village, acting as though she was the rightful queen, and Zuba followed behind, looking down on everyone like they were beneath her. The villagers watched silently, unsure of what to think. Many missed Nandi's gentle kindness, but they didn't dare speak against Cassia. Chief Okande, once strong and proud, now seemed like a shadow of his former self. Cassia's plan wasn't finished yet. She wanted more than just Nandi out of the way. She wanted the power for herself. Slowly and carefully, she began poisoning Okande, just enough to make him weaker day by day. She mixed herbs into his meals and drinks, pretending to care for him while secretly draining his strength. Each day, he grew sicker, his once powerful frame becoming frail. His voice, which once commanded the respect of his people, grew weaker. He barely spoke anymore, spending most of his days in bed, his eyes clouded with confusion and sadness. Cassia played the part of the worried wife perfectly. She sat by his side, holding his hand, and pretending to weep for him in front of the villagers. "My poor husband," she would say, her voice full of fake sorrow. "I am doing everything I can to save him." The villagers believed her, or at least they wanted to. After all, she was their chief's wife. But not everyone was fooled. Baba Mzuri, the village healer, had been watching closely. He was an old, wise man who had served the village for many years. He remembered the light that once shone in Okande's eyes, and he saw how that light dimmed more each day. Something felt wrong, and his instincts told him Cassia was at the center of it. One day, while Cassia was out parading through the village with Zuba, Baba Mzuri visited the chief's hut. He found Okande lying in bed, barely awake. His skin was pale, and his breathing was shallow. Baba Mzuri knelt beside him, touching his forehead gently. The chief flinched slightly, but didn't open his eyes. The healer looked around the room, searching for answers. His eyes landed on a small wooden box tucked behind the cooking pots. Something about it felt off. He carefully pulled it out and opened it. Inside, he found a bundle of dried herbs. Herbs he recognized immediately. These weren't meant for healing. They were poisonous plants, ones that weakened the mind and body over time. He had seen them used only by those with cruel intentions. His heart sank. He knew what this meant. Cassia wasn't caring for Okande. She was killing him, slowly and quietly. Baba Mzuri took the herbs and hid them in his pouch. He couldn't confront Cassia alone. She was clever and dangerous. He needed proof, and he needed the villagers to see the truth for themselves. He decided to watch her more closely, waiting for the right moment to expose her. Cassia, meanwhile, felt more powerful than ever. She believed everything was going perfectly. Okande was too weak to rule. The villagers pitied her, and Nandi was gone forever. she began to think of herself as the true leader of Zalumbwe. She held village meetings in Okande's place, pretending it was to honor his wishes. In truth, she wanted the people to see her as their ruler, not him. But cracks were starting to show. The villagers noticed how Cassia smiled more than she mourned. They noticed how Zuba flaunted her fine clothes and jewels, while their beloved chief wasted away. Whispers began to spread, quiet but persistent. Baba Mzuri listened to these whispers carefully. He knew the people still loved Okande and missed Nandi. He also knew that soon the truth would have to come to light, and when it did, Cassia's lies would crumble around her. With Kato's guidance, Nandi made her way back to Zalumbwe. She was no longer the frightened, heartbroken girl who'd been cast out. The forest had made her stronger, and Kato's belief in her gave her courage. Still, she knew returning openly would be dangerous. Cassia's lies had poisoned her father's heart and turned the village against her. She needed a way to reveal the truth without being recognized. Not yet. The annual Moonlight Festival was only days away. It was the most important event in Zalumbwe, a night when the villagers gathered to honor their ancestors with music, dance, and stories. People wore masks and colorful clothing to celebrate, believing the spirits of their loved ones walked among them, unseen. Nandi and Kato saw this as the perfect chance. Nandi could blend in with the crowd and speak without fear of being silenced. On the night of the festival, the village was alive with joy and laughter. Lanterns glowed like stars, and the scent of roasted food filled the air. Drums beat rhythmically, and people danced around the great fire in the center of the village. Cassia sat proudly at Chief Okanda's side, acting as though she ruled beside him. Okanda looked weaker than ever, his skin pale, his once bright eyes dull and distant. He barely seemed aware of what was happening around him. Cassia leaned over every so often, pretending to comfort him, while making sure he stayed silent and obedient. Hidden beneath a beautiful, intricately designed mask, Nandi stepped into the crowd. Kato, watching from the shadows, gave her a reassuring nod. Taking a deep breath, Nandi made her way toward the fire. Her heart pounded, but she reminded herself why she was doing this. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for her father, her village, and the truth. The villagers gathered closer as Nandi raised her voice, strong and clear. "Let me tell you a story," she began, her voice cutting through the noise. A story of a girl, loved by her father and cherished by her people. She was kind and gentle, but her world changed when her father married a woman who seemed kind, yet held darkness in her heart. The crowd quieted, drawn in by her words. Cassia's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing slightly. The woman envied the girl's beauty and the love she shared with her father. Nandi continued. She whispered lies into his ear, twisting the truth until his heart turned cold. She made the girl seem wicked, and in the end, she accused her of a terrible crime, one the girl never committed. Her father, blinded by the lies, cast her out, sending her into a dark, dangerous forest where death waited at every turn. Some villagers glanced at each other, recognizing the story. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Cassia's face grew tense, her hands gripping the arms of her chair. "But the girl didn't die," Nandi said, her voice rising. "She survived. She found strength she didn't know she had. And she met an ally, a spirit, cursed to wander the forest until he helped someone who carried true kindness in their heart. Together, they vowed to find justice." The villagers listened in stunned silence now. Nandi's voice softened, but her words were steady. "The woman who betrayed the girl didn't stop there. She poisoned the girl's father, making him weak and frail, hoping to take his throne for herself." Gasps filled the air. People turned to look at Chief Okande, his head hanging low, his skin sickly and pale. Baba Mzuri, standing near the edge of the crowd, nodded gravely. "And now," Nandi said, her voice strong and clear, "that girl stands before you." Slowly, she reached up and removed her mask. The crowd fell into stunned silence. Then, all at once, they gasped. Nandi's face, though thinner and worn from her time in the forest, was unmistakable. Chief Okande's head. The villagers were captivated by Nandi's story. Her words were powerful, filled with pain, hope, and strength. It was as though the spirit of the ancestors themselves spoke through her. The crowd hung on every word, their hearts stirring with an unfamiliar ache. Whispers spread like wildfire. The story felt too real, too familiar to ignore. Faces once filled with joy and celebration now held sadness and unease. They began to wonder if the tale was more than just a story. "Who are you?" A voice from the crowd called out. Others joined in, their curiosity growing. "Show us your face!" they begged. Nandi stood still for a moment, her heart racing. She had come this far, and now the truth had to come to light. Slowly, with trembling hands, she reached up and removed her mask. Gasps echoed through the village. People stepped back in shock. Some covered their mouths. Others stared in disbelief. The girl before them, the girl they believed to be gone forever, was Nandi. Her face was thinner, her cheeks hollowed from hardship, but her eyes still held the same warmth and kindness they remembered. Chief Okande, sitting weakly on his throne, lifted his head. His once strong body was frail, his skin pale, but when his eyes met Nandi's, something seemed to awaken in him. For a moment, the fog clouding his mind seemed to clear. His eyes widened, filled with a mix of shock, pain, and deep regret. "Nandi!" His voice came out broken, barely a whisper. Nandi's eyes filled with tears, but she stood tall. "Yes, father," she said softly. "It's me." The crowd murmured in disbelief. They remembered the lies Cassia had told, that Nandi was a traitor, that she had tried to poison her own father for power. But now, seeing her standing before them, strong and brave, after all she had endured, they began to question everything. How could this girl, who spoke with such kindness and courage, be the monster Cassia described? Chief Okande's voice trembled. They told me you betrayed me, that you wanted to kill me." His voice broke, his face filled with anguish. "But now, I see the truth. I see what I've done. My sweet Nandi, I failed you." Tears streamed down Nandi's face. "You didn't fail me, father," she said, her voice shaking. "You were tricked. Cassia filled your heart with lies, but I never stopped loving you." The crowd turned to Cassia, who sat frozen, her face pale. Zuba, standing beside her, looked terrified. The villagers began to murmur, their voices rising in anger. They remembered the way Cassia had taken over, how she smiled while their chief wasted away. They remembered how Nandi had always been kind, how she helped anyone in need. The truth was clear now. They had been fooled. Chief Okande's eyes filled with tears as he looked at his daughter, the weight of his mistakes crashing down on him. "Nandi," he whispered again, his voice full of sorrow. "Can you ever forgive me?" Nandi's heart ached, but she knew the truth. Her father had been manipulated, his heart poisoned just as his body had been. She stepped forward and knelt before him. "I forgive you, father. I never blamed you." The villagers watched in silence, many wiping their own tears. The daughter they thought was gone had returned, and the chief they loved was finally seeing the truth. The air was thick with emotion, sadness, regret, and hope, all mixed together. The truth could no longer be hidden. As the truth of Nandi's return settled over the stunned crowd, a new wave of whispers swept through the village. All eyes slowly turned to Cassia, who sat frozen in place. Her once smug smile had vanished, replaced by a mask of fear. Zuba clung to her side, wide-eyed and trembling. Before Cassia could speak, Baba Mzuri stepped forward from the crowd. His voice, usually calm and gentle, rang out with strength and authority. "People of Zalumbwe," he called, his voice echoing through the hushed crowd. "You have heard Nandi's truth, but now it is time for mine." He reached into his pouch and pulled out the bundle of dried herbs he had found hidden in Cassia's belongings. The crowd leaned in, curious. "These herbs are not meant to heal," Baba Mzuri explained, holding them high for all to see. "They are poisons, ones that weaken the mind and body slowly, making the victims seem as though they are dying of sickness." His eyes burned with anger as he turned to Cassia. "These are the very herbs I found in Cassia's room, the same herbs that have been poisoning our chief all this time." Gasps filled the air. Villagers turned to one another, their faces a mix of shock and fury. Cassia shot to her feet, her voice trembling with desperation. "Lies!" she screeched. "He's lying!" I loved Chief Okande. I cared for him. But the crowd wasn't listening anymore. They saw through her now. The truth, once hidden beneath her charm and false kindness, was laid bare. "You lied to us!" one villager shouted. "You made us believe Nandi was evil!" Another cried. "You tried to steal the village for yourself!" Kasia's face twisted with panic. "No! No! You don't understand!" she stammered. She turned to Okande, who stared at her with a mixture of heartbreak and anger. "My love! You know me! I only ever wanted what was best for you and for Zalumbwe!" Chief Okande's voice, though weak, cut through her lies like a knife. "You poisoned me," he said slowly, his voice low but steady. "You turned me against my own daughter. You stole my heart, my strength, and my people's trust. I trusted you, and you betrayed us all." Kasia's eyes darted around wildly, searching for someone to take her side, but no one did. The villagers glared at her with nothing but rage and betrayal. Even Zuba, who had always followed her mother's lead, looked scared and unsure now. Baba Mzuri stepped closer, his voice firm. "Kasia, for your crimes against Chief Okanda, Princess Nandi, and the people of Zalumbwe, you are no longer welcome in this village. You will be banished, and may the spirits have mercy on you." The crowd erupted. Voices shouted in agreement, their anger boiling over. Kasia's face twisted with fury and fear. She grabbed Zuba's wrist and tried to push through the crowd, but the villagers stepped aside, clearing a path that led only one way, out of the village. "You will regret this," Kasia spat, her voice shaking with rage. "All of you! You're nothing without me." But no one listened. They watched in silence as she and Zuba were driven out, their once fine clothes torn and dirty, their heads hung low. As they disappeared into the distance, the weight that had hung over Zalumbwe for so long seemed to lift. The air felt clearer, lighter. The village was free from Kasia's poison, in both body and spirit. As the dust settled and Kasia was gone, the village felt like it could breathe again. The dark cloud that had hung over Zalumbwe was finally lifted. Chief Okande, though weak, looked at his daughter with tears in his eyes. He reached out to her, his voice trembling with regret. "Nandi, my child, can you ever forgive me?" Nandi's heart ached, but she knew the truth. Her father had been blinded by lies, his heart poisoned by Kasia's deception. She stepped forward and gently took his hand. "I forgive you, father," she said softly. "You were tricked, but your love for me never truly left. I know that now." Tears streamed down Chief Okande's face as he embraced his daughter. The villagers watched, their hearts filled with warmth and admiration for Nandi's kindness. She had every reason to be angry, to turn her back on her father and the village that had once cast her out. But instead, she chose forgiveness and love. With Kato's help, Nandi worked tirelessly to restore Zalumbwe. The fields, once dry and neglected under Kasia's false rule, flourished again. The rivers sparkled like they used to, and laughter returned to the village streets. Nandi's strength and compassion inspired everyone. She listened to the people, helped the sick, and treated everyone with the same kindness she always had, the kindness Kasia had tried to destroy. The villagers, seeing her wisdom and pure heart, came together and declared Nandi the true heir of Zalumbwe. They cheered her name, proud to have her as their future leader. Chief Okande, filled with both pride and sorrow, knew his daughter was ready to lead. He stepped down, knowing the village would be safer and stronger in her hands. Kato, who had stood by Nandi through it all, smiled at her proudly. As the village celebrated, a light surrounded him. His form shimmered and shifted, and before their eyes, he transformed. He was no ordinary hunter, but a prince from a distant kingdom. His curse, bound to the forest until he helped a soul as pure as Nandi's, was finally broken. Kato looked at Nandi, his eyes full of love. "It was never just about the curse," he said softly. "I stayed because I found something more powerful than magic. I found you." Together, Nandi and Kato stood before the cheering village, ready to lead Zalumbwe into a brighter, kinder future.